I'm Johnny Millennium, this is Victor Lucas, and this is The Stacks. And we just saw Ready Player One. There happened to be a Ready Player One event in Vancouver. Perfect timing. We're going to come here and shoot the review. And this is a very highly anticipated movie by Ernest Cline, made into a movie by Steven Spielberg. What did you think of this movie?
I was freaking entertained by this movie. There is a lot of beautiful imagery to see in this thing, and your eyes are just like, oh my God, it's so dazzling. With so many, characters and intellectual properties more succinctly that we know and recognize from years gone by. This really is a love letter to the 80s, which is all about you and me in a way, isn't it?
It really, really is. And I kind of want to go back to the beginning, is that about 6 years ago, I had Ernie Cline on a podcast. Yeah. And at that point, he had just sold the rights to make the movie. He hadn't got, Steven Spielberg hadn't jumped on then.
Yeah.
And I've talked to him over the years, and I've been so excited for this. I love the book, and you listened to the book years ago as well.
Yes, with Will Wheaton doing the audio commentary, or the narration. It was great.
He was really good, yeah.
Yeah, and this movie, they make some, obvious sort of departures from some of the stuff, the dense sort of, connections and the dense sort of homages that they have in the novel. They sort of depart from there a little bit. And famously, Spielberg said, I'm not going to just be throwing in references to all of my own stuff because it looks like I'm patting my back too much.
Yeah, and he felt embarrassed by that quite a bit. He's like, I don't really want to do that. But watching this movie was a smorgasbord of a love letter to the 80s.
Yeah.
And I just want to say, to Ernest Cline, I got tears in my eyes watching this movie so many times. I just want to say, Vic was up like this in his seat, sitting up.
I wanted to take it all in. And I did really enjoy this movie, but I did feel like it was, the stakes were taken out a little bit. And one of the major issues with the film is the theme, because you're set in a virtual world for the most part called the Oasis.
Yes.
And Tye Sheridan plays Wade Watts, who is this heroic figure inside of the Oasis
living
world,
in the stacks,
lives in this terrible trailer park kind of, sort of hell, and can depart and become a bigger figure in this Oasis world. And it was beautifully rendered with lots of homages, a lot of, frankly, too many Warner Brothers sort of homages in here. That
just bothered me too much.
It's funded by Warner Brothers, but it felt weird to have the absence of the Comcast and the Disney and the other properties. Actually, Comcast owns Universal, so there was some of that. But no Star Wars, no Marvel felt a little strange to me.
Yeah.
And the other thing
I could have sworn I saw some Star Wars stuff in there. I guess not, eh?
Well, they made
There's so much thrown at you.
I know. Yeah, and you're going to want to watch it again. And
many times.
So many references, and it's super, super cool that way. But
I know where you're getting to with this. My thing with the movie was this.
Yep.
I loved everything about it. I really, really did. But I love the book even more.
Yeah.
And the book should have been made into a miniseries, or this should have been a trilogy.
Yes.
Because there's so much they try to condense into a small, little 2.5-hour movie. And I think Spielberg did a good job of doing that. But my God, it's so rushed, and it's like going from one scene to the next, to the next, to the next.
And I think that's the biggest issue with the movie, is that it went from this is happening to it's happened too quickly.
Yeah, the characters didn't have a chance to settle and go, wait a second.
Yes.
Like they do in the book.
Yeah.
And in the book, it's really nicely, there's romantic interest in the book that you really have a long time to enjoy building up. And this one is like, here you go.
Yeah.
And that's not a bad thing, though.
Yeah, and the big sort of message is that you got to balance it out. I mean, that's sort of the thematic kind of overtone, is that we can't get lost in this thing. I mean, you can kind of predict that when you see the imagery. You can't just live all of your existence in this oasis, even though that's what humanity is doing here. But there is a bit of an absence of humanity. And I have to be frank, as much as I love that Spielberg's touch is all over this, and I love him, he's my favorite filmmaker of all time.
Mine too.
I feel like he was the wrong choice to direct this movie. I feel like somebody that could really paint the homage and really could
Vic, I don't know.
I feel somebody else should have taken the reins and done this story right, because it's a story about Spielberg. It's a story, and my favorite thing about this is that Warren Robinett and the idea that who designed Adventure and other video game makers are really championed, and I thought that was beautiful.
Yes,
and there is so
just
much
like the book.
beauty. Yes,
there's so much to absolutely enjoy and love in this movie.
Yeah,
I was marveling, and I don't want to give any spoilers, at certain movie homages. I was like, oh my God, they did this and they did this, and I enjoyed this movie quite a lot.
Yeah,
and I know it was crunched down into 2.5 hours. I know they had to change a lot of things changes, like how they get the keys in there. They had to change it to make it a little bit more cinematic, and I think they did a great job. I enjoyed it from a fun point of view.
Me too.
Having popcorn, watching a movie, I thought it was a lot of fun.
Are you buying the 4K Blu-ray?
Absolutely.
I'm buying the 4K Blu-ray.
I'm going to watch this movie again. I'm going with my wife many, many times. And
what are you going to give Ready Player One?
I am going to give it an 8.5 out of 10.
It gets an 8 from me, and it is absolutely entertaining. You guys got to go out and see it.